Hello artists! Today we're going to start our Small Hands Change the World project. So eventually we're going to get to the point where we create a hand that has our name inside and some patterns that are based on things that are part of who we are and how we feel. So I have done two things. I have printed off the rubric and planning sheet for this assignment. If you are unable to print this off, that's not a big deal. You can just look on your screen, but it is important that you read through this so that you know how you will be graded. This is the rubric up here. The things I'll be looking for include patterns based on things that I like, filling the negative space between my letters. The hand is cut out nicely. The letters touch the edges of the hand and that they are thick. The other thing that we often talk about in-person art is the choices that you make while you are working. Are you respectful, responsible, resourceful, and safe? Those are things that you can do at home as well. And then there is a chart here to help you brainstorm your ideas. So these here are for the things that go into your hand. So the fingers, the patterns based on your fingers. And then on the back, or the second sheet, there is an opportunity to brainstorm lines based on the zones. So you can do this right on this paper if you print it out. You could also do it on the computer. It might be a little bit challenging to draw the pictures or draw the lines in those areas. But you can also just grab another sheet of paper and do your work on it. If you're doing it on your own piece of paper, I encourage you to create a chart. So you're going to start with your thumb. And then you're going to want to have a spot for your thoughts and then your pictures. So I can just draw a line down like this. And then I can think about my thoughts. I'm going to maybe divide this in half. So I'll have my thoughts here. So I don't necessarily have to write this information down, but I want to think about what is something I'm good at. Some of the things I am good at is I am good at art. I am good at reading. I am good at finding the positives, so I guess I'm optimistic. I am good at teaching, I would think. Well, I hope. Hopefully you will feel that way too. So there I have a couple ideas. And then I need to think about what can I do? How can I turn these words into pictures? So when I think of art, I think of like a paintbrush. So I could think about drawing a paintbrush. This is the bristles of the brush and then the handle like this. And remember, it's going to go into a small space and it's going to be kind of a symbol. So you don't have to get really detailed. So maybe I want to be finished with my thumb. And then I'm going to think about all of my other ideas too. And I'll continue this chart for the rest of them. Now that I have completed my planning for the things that will go onto my fingers, I want to think about the lines that are going to go into the spaces between my letters. And we are going to use the zones for that. So I have created a chart for you to help you. Remember that the red zone, the yellow zone, the green zone, and the blue zone mean different things. So the red zone is when you are angry or mad or upset. The yellow zone is when you are frustrated or nervous or worried. The green zone is when you're happy and calm and good to go, feeling good. And the blue zone is when you are really tired or sad or bored. So what you can do on the bottom of the chart that we started is create another chart, but this time you can just divide your paper in half, and then you can divide that space in half so that you have 4 boxes. And you can just write the colors of the zones. So red, yellow. You could also just color them, green and blue. And I challenge you to try to come up with some lines that make you feel like how you feel when you are in these zones. So like when I'm in the red zone, I am pretty angry, I'm pretty tense, so I'm like pretty tight. So I think like a big, like maybe even a dark line that is really jagged would represent anger to me, because when I'm angry, it seems like all these little tiny little things, these little dots just seem to compound and get huge. Okay, so another thing I could think about when I am angry or when I'm upset or I want to just explode, I guess you could say, would be maybe I'm just really big movements and fast ones and sharp ones. So those could be two examples that you could use for red zone. Now I encourage you to come up with your own. And then you want to think about all the other zones as well. So yellow is where you're just a little bit worried or you're nervous or you're anxious. So you're just, maybe you're a little bit jittery. And when I think of jittery, I think of like a really small but constant movement. So I'm just kind of jiggling my pencil as I go across the paper for the yellow zone. Another thing I can think of too is that in the yellow zone, sometimes I'm good, but sometimes I'm not, and that reminds me of like, so I'm doing okay, but then something happens. And then I'm doing okay, and then something else happens. So those could be two lines for the yellow. Green is when you're happy and calm and good to go, feeling okay. So the green lines I think of kind of just little swirlies. Sort of reminds me of like a line a bee or a butterfly might fly in, just kind of loop-de-looping, going in any direction. Notice how these lines are nice and soft and curvy and just no really sharp edges. So maybe this one just takes a little bit longer to meander to where it's going. And then the blue is where you're tired or sick or bored. And I think when I am really slow, I don't move very much. So maybe I just have really slow changes to my lines. And I think of like horizontal lines. When I do that. So now you have kind of created all of your thinking so that you can create your hand. The next step is going to be to trace your hand onto a piece of paper and start to add these things together, starting with your name and then adding the patterns that you came up with on your planning.